Welcome to this episode of Big Iron Bits and Bytes, our podcast riffing on topics surfaced in our YouTube series, Big Iron Bits. If you haven't checked it out yet, hit the link below. I'm your host from Broadcom Mainframe Software, John Kaplan. Today we're talking about quantum and modernization and the increasing speed of these waves coming at us where maintaining the status quo will leave organizations falling behind. Instead, they need to keep moving forward systematically, adopting new security controls and mechanisms, and creating modernization plans that address product and certificate configuration, and many other things. But today, I'm joined by Michael Jordan and Rose Sakach to help us untie these knots and investigate and dive into these worlds. So Rose and Michael, thank you.
To be here.
Yep, thank you.
So before we dive in, I want to take a look at a clip from one of our Big Iron Bits episodes. It's the I'm Here for the S'mores. In this scene, we see our favorite new CIO, Chaz, literally hiding in the woods. Why? Because he's absolutely terrified of the sheer volume of data growing in the world and how he needs to protect it, to modernize it, to live with it. So let me play that clip real quick.
Caw-caw! A-Train!
Hey, what's going on?
Chaz lives here now.
Okay. What about you?
I'm here for the s'mores.
Chaz said we have too much data, and he wanted to hide from it. I didn't think he meant this.
So our customers probably aren't going to hide in the woods, but you know, they can be scared of the unknown. Michael, Rose, what are your takes of things we should be thinking about? A lot of data out there, post-quantum cryptography as we hit the quantum wave, modernization and tooling. What do you guys think about this?
Hey, well, I'll tell you, I think that our customers are in a good place with us on their side, mostly because we've got their back when it comes to keeping them modernized and ready for what's coming at them. And I think we could do Chaz. We could give him a little bit of help and sort of soften those concerns if we were to sit him down and help him to understand what we have in store from a modernization perspective. No need to be afraid. There are solutions out there. We can partner with you, help you on your way, and get you ready and prepared for today and the future.
So what's like a concrete example of something that customers can be thinking about or should be starting on in their modernization, wherever they are on the journey? What's something you hear customers top of mind that they can be doing?
Absolutely top of mind, no question, is the retirement wave and folks losing their subject matter experts to retirement. And this is something that we address head on with our modernization efforts, giving our customers the ability to transition their mainframe solutions to look and feel more like solutions that run on other platforms, taking advantage of open source tools and open source practices that exist out there that new to Z folks would have been exposed to and more than likely trained on at their university coming out of college, or even within their own organization. I think what a lot of our customers don't realize is that when we help them understand what we mean by modernization, leveraging existing tools and popular tools that have been around for quite some time in other platforms, they can now start to leverage people from within their enterprise to perform functions on the mainframe. So keep the mainframe doing what it does best, leverage that high volume transaction power, and empower your folks across the division, across your enterprise to leverage it like any other platform.
Yeah, and I think that's an important part. A lot of folks think when new to Z or new to mainframe means you're new in career, but transitioning from a different part of IT and with the modern tools and popular tools, working on the mainframe can feel much more comfortable if it's in the you're using similar tools, just applied differently.
Absolutely. So Visual Studio Code is Visual Studio Code, right? What's different is if you're programming on the mainframe, you're likely not using a language that exists on another platform. But learning a new language is quite different than having to learn mainframe and a new language.
All right, Michael, so lots of data out there. Chaz is freaking out about it. That intersects with your favorite subject, which is slowly becoming one of mine every time I hear you speak about it. But what do we, for our audience, why don't you break down a little bit of what PQC is and why we're talking about it and Y2Q and give them a little bit of a taste.
Sure. But first, I also want to just say that it was so much fun to be part of, the Big Iron Bits, that episode. I mean, that was, watching the whole end-to-end process and kind of seeing it all come together was a lot of fun. And I think I actually scared Chaz for real a little bit. He came up to me after we had done a lunch and learn at Share with Greg Lodko and company. And he came up after me after I kind of was talking about, PQC and the actor himself was generally, this was really the first time he was hearing about this in any kind of detail. And he was actually, scared about it. So I had to talk him off the ledge a little bit, but we're kind of at I think a really interesting inflection point from a cybersecurity perspective across the industry. There's, as we look at new technologies like AI and new technologies like quantum computing, what we're discovering is that they can be used for good purposes and they can be used for nefarious purposes. And, that's really what the topic of post-quantum crypto is about. Cryptography over the last several decades has sort of grown from a niche kind of use case to being very much ubiquitous. It's used, in all layers of the stack. It's used in the hardware. It's used in the firmware, operating systems, applications. It's used as part of our modernization strategies. If we've got APIs that are connecting, from clients to servers, well, those connections have to be secured in some way. Online banking, cloud computing, things like modern technologies like, digital assets and cryptocurrencies are all based on cryptography. And it is an enabling technology that serves as a foundation for trust for pretty much everything we do in our lives today. And we use it without even knowing or being aware of it, but it's there and it is providing that trust. The reality is that trust is based on math and that there are certain mathematical problems that are really hard for classical computers to solve. And if they were able to solve those mathematical problems, you could actually break the cryptography that we've grown to know and love. And in the not so distant future, quantum computers will have the compute power to actually break that cryptography. And so, the task at hand for all of the organizations that we're working with is to really identify all the places they're using crypto, build a crypto inventory, and start to figure out, what they need to do to change that crypto to use crypto that's been vetted by NIST and other organizations to be resistant to attacks from quantum computers. So that's kind of the task at hand in a nutshell. There's lots more to it than that, but that's kind of the high level view.
Yeah, and there's many other resources to dig in deeper, but thanks to you for that top level. The harvest now, decrypt later means people need to start moving. Is there a commercially available, quantum right now that there's no, but we don't know when that's going to come, and that timeline
Yeah,
seems to keep getting pulled forward.
Right. The the reality is there isn't, as of today, there isn't a quantum computer that has enough qubits to break the cryptography. But there are a couple things to consider as part of that. First is there's concern over what's known as you mentioned, harvest now, decrypt later, which is, there's lots and lots of, as I was mentioning, we rely on cryptography, to protect our infrastructures and protect our applications. And part of that is we're sending, encrypted data over open networks, with the expectation that that data is protected and the cryptography that we're using is protecting that data. And there are bad actors out there that are, capturing that encrypted data and capturing, the public keys that were used to kind of establish the secure pipeline, with the expectation that some point in the future they'll be able to, basically break that cryptography and essentially decode that information. And the data that we're using for this is the life cycle is measured typically in years and decades. Data that's captured today is still of value in the future. So that's the first component of that. The other is, the technology. Quantum computing is evolving. There are I wouldn't say large scale quantum computers, but there are commercially available quantum computers, and the industry is now, building the error correction that they need to build these at a massive scale. And the expectation is that will happen somewhere around the 2029 timeframe, with then opening the door to being able to build large, scale quantum computers early in the next decade. And when you look at all the guidance from the different geos around the world, they're all saying, hey, we've got to get the high priority migration done by 2030 and complete migration done by 2035. And that's the race against the clock that we're facing now. And if you think about 2030, that's less than 4 years away. That's less than 48 months away. And when you think about how long it takes to implement changes within an organization, we really need to be starting this process now. I think the key takeaway is the clock is ticking, and we need to start that process.
Sounds like we need to start yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Rose, I'm going to play a clip, but I'm going to tee up. I want you to help us bring in the connection of these waves and how, what we need to be thinking about from a modernization standpoint to help prepare for PQC. But I'm going to just play this real quick. This is a scene from the episode that Michael referenced, Sharing is Caring. We filmed it live at our Share conference. And this is where Michael, scared the real actor Pete. But we're going to see a little bit of this in the middle, chaos going on.
I don't have time to talk. Chaz is MIA, and we have a very important meeting. Larry is interrogating people about digital certificates in Code 4Z, and Rafi's doing themed selfies. I hate to use foul language, but I'm feeling pretty peeved right now.
All right, so she mentions that, interrogating about digital certificates and mentions Code for Z, but
Yes.
can you help us bridge how these things work hand in hand?
Yeah, so Code for Z is a modern developer experience that we offer here at Broadcom. It's a collection of Visual Studio Code extensions. I mentioned earlier that our modernization strategy, at least with respect to helping our customers mitigate the retirement of subject matter experts, revolves around offering the ability to have customers leverage tools and processes that have been out there for quite some time. Visual Studio Code plays a major role in helping to mitigate that. And our Code for Z solution helps customers to bring that experience to their end users. Now, because the solution is somewhat new, And because it ties into the overarching modernization strategy, which is fundamentally based on APIs, application programming interfaces, and those APIs are managed by an open source technology, Open Mainframe Project Zoe. The underlying technology required to support a solution like Code4Z, like this Visual Studio Code experience that we're bringing to our use space, the installation of the new technology requires the setup and configuration of digital certificates. Now, digital certificates, from what I understand, I'm not an expert, but from what I understand, this isn't new. It isn't necessarily rocket science. They've been around for a while. I did a little bit of querying, before this and learned that they entered into the IT space around 1988. Does that sound right to you, Michael? 1988 in the distributed world. And for the purpose of ensuring, that I think it was related more to the web activity in the introduction of web pages and, people offering products through the web. Now, for mainframers, although, we certainly support that today, the use and the uptick in requiring digital certificates came much later than 1988. And from what I understand and from what I've experienced, it was more early 2000s. I'm sharing all this with you because what we're learning as our customers are rolling out the modernization fundamental software that we're requiring in the form of open source Zoe and, for example, the API mediation layer, it requires the configuration of digital certificates. It's a new form of software on the mainframe. And what we're learning is that systems programmers traditionally didn't have to necessarily be an expert or even nearly expert in creating and configuring those certificates. And so we're in the process of developing something that will help guide the systems programmer, the person responsible for standing up the software, configuring the software, interacting with security managers within their organization to install and configure digital certificates for not only the foundational software that's required for modernization, but for all of our solutions across the board. And I would liken it to, the difference between, and I'm sure people use this analogy all the time, right? We think about all the navigation now that we have available to us in our hands, on our phones, and the navigation that we have available to us in our cars. If you remember a time when somebody gave you directions to get from point A to point B, especially if it's a longer distance type trip, right? It's difficult to memorize them. It's always beneficial to have somebody else in the car with you helping to guide you, but it's absolutely perfect when you have an interactive map that helps you to almost completely avoid errors along the way. And so you're almost guaranteed to get from A to B at the time that it estimates that you will arrive there.
And we know that's only become more crucial as the requirements of how quickly certificates need to be renewed is shortening. So, from, I can't remember the exact days, but, instead of every 120 days down to 90 days, I think on the map is 45 days. So this time-consuming work that is very manual right now for most companies, we'll be having to do it more frequently. And so helping to automate it and make it less error prone is going to be huge for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to confuse this with, there's the initial setup requirements. And that usually, what we've learned anyway, with respect to the modernization prerequisites, we've learned that the systems programmers and service providers responsible for installing and configuring this software struggle with the setup and configuration of digital certificates. Managing the entire life cycle of those certificates is coming together in another form where we'll plan to help guide our customers to manage them throughout their life cycle and better mitigate the shortening timeline and lifespan of digital certificates. But for us, it's all about getting that prerequisite software installed, stood up, and available for our customers to use so that they can mitigate that modernization wave.
All right, so earlier Michael made reference to his appearance in season 1 of Big Iron Bits. So I'm going to share a little clip of that before we take some final words from our guest today.
He's still out there?
Clearly you don't know Chaz.
Oh, everything here looks great. All the latest regulations require encryption and cyber resilience. You guys have that covered, so you don't have to worry about all that data.
I know, Michael. I'm the one who set it up.
And why'd you call me out here?
I called him because everyone said I needed to meet the Michael Jordan of mainframe compliance. I thought it was just a figure of speech.
Yes, my name is Michael Jordan. It's both a blessing and a curse.
It's from Larry. Michael Jordan says our compliance strategy is all set?
The Michael Jordan?
That's what he says.
Michael Jordan. You think it's like my marshmallow? Let's go.
See.
All right, well, we all want a Michael Jordan approved plan for our organizations to stay relevant and secure. We need the tooling and automation that transforms those complex manual processes. But from both a security and a configuration perspective, what can customers do to get their Michael Jordan approved plan to navigate PQC and modernization? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing that clients can do today is that first step, which is most organizations today don't have a handle on where all the places that they're using cryptography and the cryptographic assets that go along with that, like their digital certificates and keys. So the first step of the and you can't migrate what you can't see or don't know about. So the first step of the process is for organizations to discover the crypto that they have, in all parts of their organization, all layers of their stack, and build a cryptographic inventory and capture the metadata that they're going to need to do kind of that next stage of planning in terms of understanding dependencies and what else has to change. And start to map out, a roadmap for getting from point A to point B, because until they've done that work, organizations don't know how long this is going to take. And if you don't know how long it's going to take, you don't know when to start, right? And so, that is absolutely, the most critical key takeaway for all of this. With Broadcom, we do have tooling that can help in this process. Tools like Netmaster can help you understand what kind of crypto you're using with all of your network security sessions. Rose talked about some of the work that we're doing around certificates and management of certificates. So that's also an important aspect of that. And more importantly, Broadcom is going through this exact process ourselves. We're making sure that our entire mainframe software portfolio is PQC ready. And in addition to the tooling we offer, we're certainly able to work with our customers in terms of our expertise and sharing the lessons learned as we go through this process.
Yeah, and from the modernization perspective, I think what I would say is that we have the ability to help your organization be prepared and be modernized. Not just for the sake of being more modern. As I mentioned, we have many customers who are recognizing that there is a way to mitigate that retirement wave. And it starts with recognizing that there are ways to obtain and retain new to Z resources. And it starts with ensuring that you have the ability to introduce tools and techniques that they're familiar with. Again, it's centered on technologies like Visual Studio Code in our Code for Z offering. We also have a Bridge for Git connector that ensures that customers can leverage Git in their development cycle, in their development process alongside Endeavor. All of this doesn't require any kind of rip and replace type strategy. It encourages customers to move forward at a pace that they're comfortable with. It recognizes that many of our customers have sort of a dual workforce going. We have existing subject matter experts that are perfectly confident and comfortable working with the tools and processes that they've been working with for decades, while at the same time, they want to introduce folks that are new to Z, that are just having to learn Z in order to support Z for the future. That is our strategy. I recommend our customers, reach out to us to get an understanding of where it might be best for them to begin. Of course, I think it all starts with where they're feeling the most pain from an expertise and where they might be feeling more pain from an area of expertise. Is it in an operational area? Is it in a developmental area, or even in the area of security? We have solutions that span all of those areas and can help our customers move forward with confidence that they can continue to run the right workload on the right platform, because Z is the right platform for that high volume transaction processing, knowing that they'll have subject matter experts coming into the platform in a much easier, less demanding fashion that required intense training in the past.
Well, Michael and Rose, I want to thank you for your time today, sharing your expertise with our audience, and a big thank you to our producer behind the scenes, Keely Estrada Moeller, and to all of you for tuning in. If you want to see more of Chaz hiding in the woods, head over to YouTube and check out Big Iron Bits. And to learn more about anything we've talked about today, please reach out to your Broadcom representative. Until next time, go forth and be excellent mainframers.